Good morning, everybody. Hi, my name is Robin. I am honored to be here. You are blessed to have the best professor in the entire country.
You're too kind.
Hey, everybody. How's everyone doing this morning?
I'm going to go ahead.
Good.
Oh, good. Good to hear.
Good.
That's awesome.
So, Robin, talk to the students a little bit about your career as a classical violist and what it has meant to you.
Wow, that's a tough question. Just because it's difficult to encapsulate all that it is to be a classical artist. I would say that the most wonderful thing about being a musician, being an artist, is that you have the freedom and the ability to build your own career. It's kind of like Build-A-Bear, you know? You have all these little parts, all these elements, and each of your little elements is important. For me, it started as a child. I started on the piano when I was 5, and that's a fundamental instrument. That's where you the musical theory and just the discipline of sitting down to play an instrument that does not immediately sound terrible. I will say that the piano sounds beautiful for everybody when you start. The viola or the violin or the trumpet, some other instruments, when you're first starting, sounds a little harsh on the ears at first. But I was very blessed to have parents who saw that I took an interest in music from a very early age, and they made all of the sacrifices so that I could pursue something that I loved, that they saw that I loved. And I was not privileged, I wasn't rich, I didn't come from an affluent house particularly, but my parents made the sacrifice. Art is worth the sacrifice. It's what makes us human. And I think all of us know that there's a great power in music. So to be a musician, I like to say I'm a muse, because a muse is a divine creature, divine element, creation that's directly connected with God. That's what it is to be a musician. It's to translate something that's bigger than you, and to bring it into a language that I hope that we all understand, that's universal, that connects all of us despite whatever's going on in the world. So that's how important it is to me.
So, Robin, we've been talking about Johann Sebastian Bach because we've been talking about the Baroque period. And so could you maybe, before you talk about your piece you're going to play for the students, could you maybe talk to them? What was your first experience with playing Bach?
Oh, my goodness. Bach immediately spoke to me. To me, when I first really heard Bach's pieces, one of the first pieces I encountered was the Goldberg variations for piano. And for those of you who may not be familiar with them, it's basically based on a very simple theme, and then he spins out a whole list of variations that is based on this one theme, some of which are so creative, it's almost difficult to decipher what the theme actually is if you're not paying attention. But I was entranced by that, and that was sort of as a middle schooler that I encountered that piece. And to this day, it's one of the pieces that kind of puts me at ease when I feel anxious or like I need some order. But the first time I played Bach was as a high school student. I was studying viola. I started the viola actually in high school when I was 14. And I felt so amazed by the structure. Bach has a way of building melodies that sound very simple, but they're like mathematically perfect. And I remember feeling the first time playing Bach, like, wow, the notes sound so simple, but there's so many different ways you can interpret the phrase or build the phrase or deconstruct the phrase. And I just found that to be like doing a puzzle. It was that intriguing to me and still is.
So Robin, what are you going to play for us today?
Well, I'm trying to see if I can see everybody. I don't know if I can. I am going to share one of my very favorite selections. This is the prelude from Bach's cello suite. He wrote a series of 6 suites, or a collection of dance pieces for the cello. And if you notice, this is not a cello, this is a viola. So this and all of the suites were adapted for multiple instruments. I think that they work very beautifully on the viola. This happens to be my favorite one because sonically it's kind of the most simple. It's in G major, it's happy, there's a lot of joy, but there's a lot of complexity to it too. And the prelude happens to be very recognizable. It's been, used in a lot of movies and other videos. You may have heard it, and if you haven't, I hope you enjoy it. It can be interpreted so many different ways. So I think every time I play it, it sounds a little bit different. And not just me, that's everybody who performs Bach. It takes a life of its own. So yeah, so I'm just playing the prelude to the first suite. It's in G major. So I hope you like it. And I'm in my bedroom. How cool is this? Come through, Zoom.
Bravo!
Yeah.
Hold on, I think we have a question. Let's see.
Thank you.
That was very good.
Very good, very good. Awesome.
So I think, Alexandra, did you have a question? I saw a raised hand.
Uh-oh.
I think she's still muted.
Oh, okay. Let's see. See what I can do here. I'm gonna unmute all of us. Okay, wait a minute. Somebody, let's see. Oh, okay.
Ha!
I
You're
got
right.
So Robin, could you maybe talk to them, especially during this time? How did you end up being a nurse?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. I'm gonna hold my phone. Hi everybody, now I can see faces. Hi, look at all these beautiful brown faces. No, I'm just playing.
Uh-oh.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Professor Patrick. I am honored. Being a nurse is not unlike being a musician. I'm going to sit on the floor. It's a little easier. I am, at this time, I'll say it's more than an honor to be a nurse. Being a nurse is like being a mother. It's like being a musician in that you are constantly charged with loving and being in touch with people, literally and figuratively. I wanted to be a nurse when I was 4 years old. I didn't even know what that meant. All I knew was that there was something to me that was beautiful about taking care of people. I had no idea necessarily how difficult it would be, and how challenging it would be. But I think something about being a nurse spoke to my spirit from the time I was 4. Then I discovered music at 5 and fell in love with music, pursued it fully, went on to college and grad school in pursuit of music, viola performance specifically. However, I was actually a double major for a minute in my undergrad with biology. So I've always had that love and desire to learn more about the human body and how it's connected, not just how it doesn't work, which is the pathological process, but the perfect, ideal processes that it works, that make it work. And that the knowledge of the body it enhances the way I play, it enhances the way I practice music, because even something as simple as my breath is connected. And as a vocalist, you understand this too. You have to be completely connected to your breath. Everything you do, whether you're walking, whether you're talking, singing, playing, dancing, everything is connected to the breath, and that's the oxygen of the body. And, medicine is based on that as well. So I feel like everything that I do is really connected. Nursing, the time that I decided to go back to school was a little precarious because I was going through a very painful divorce. I'm a single mom now. I was a single mom before I got married. The second time, I've been married twice, divorced twice. No shame in my game, because I learned a lesson, a very significant lesson with each major stage in life that could easily be looked at as a mishap or a misstep by someone on the outside. However, for me, it made my life more colorful, more beautiful. So my second divorce, your professor, Patrick McCoy, who is a dear, dear friend of mine, he actually met my second husband. And you know, to most people on the outside, we looked like a wonderfully happy couple. And we were at first until things took a turn. I won't go down that path, but I will say that it became a test of my mettle, test of my strength, a test of my faith. During times of adversity, you find your character, and I found my character. I found my soul. I depended on God, but I also had to dig very deep and decide, you know, what are the things that are important to me? Music was, of course, one of them, but I was forced to think, you know, what is it that I haven't done in my life that will feed my soul, that I can also give to my daughter and show my daughter, you know what, it's okay to make a mistake, but it's how you recover, it's how you stand up after you fall. And I thought about it for a while. You know, I was still doing all the things, doing all the gigs, wonderful, you know, fulfilling music career. Not that I was saying that, you know, I was rich. It wasn't about money. It was, I was doing what I love to do, still am. But I had a real decision to make. You know, am I going to stay where I'm not happy, or am I going to move forward in faith? And I chose the latter. And I found a mailer came to my house, actually, for my local community college, which is Howard Community College. And it was for their nursing program. And they had the tagline, which is their tagline, "You can get there from here." And that gripped me. I said, you know what? I always wanted to be a nurse. Why not now? You know, I kind of felt like the rest of my life was falling apart, and I could just see myself kind of, you know, in my head, just holding on for dear life. Like, I got to grab after something. And I said, I'm going to try something new. And it was scary. It's always scary to try something new, go somewhere new. And I decided, you know, step by step, I didn't tell anyone that's what I was doing other than my parents, but, and then a handful of friends. And I just said, I'm going to take one class at a time. I had already had quite a number of prerequisites from my undergrad when I was interested in biology, doing that. So I only had a few prerequisites to be eligible for the nursing program. So I knocked those out little by little while I was raising my daughter, you know, doing my music gigs, showed up to every gig. You wouldn't know I was in school or anything because I was prepared. I was prepared. And I, you know, no matter what I do, I don't complain. I just go and I do the work, because that's what you do as a professional. You show up, you're prepared. Doesn't matter how long you have to prepare. You show up, you're ready, right? So that's what I did. And before I knew it, I was in the nursing program, and it's the hardest thing, honestly, that I've ever done. It tested a lot of me. My divorce was finalized near the end of my program, and it was very painful, but I kept going. God sustained me. And in May 2018, I finished that degree, and I made it Facebook official. As it were, and a lot of people were like, wait, what? You did what? You're a nurse? What? And I didn't even really know what that meant. All I knew was that, you know what, I put myself across the finish line. barely had crawled across the finish line, I felt. But, you know, God always gives you what you need. And I've been doing both since then. You know, it's amazing. I work in a hospital in the emergency room at nights, and I'm still making music, doing all of the wonderful things like being with all of you today. So forgive me if I'm long-winded. I'm passionate. I love what I do. Absolutely. And it's an honor to be here.
You have a couple of questions. Brianna, did you want to start?
Yeah. First question is, what hospital did you work at? And the second question is, how are you dealing with being a nurse now that the coronavirus is going on?
Hey, it's Brianna, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Brianna. Good morning. Thank you for your question. I'm at St. Agnes Hospital. Hi. I'm at St. Agnes, which is not directly in the city. It's west of the city. So we get a lot of, we get a really interesting population. We get patients from the city. We also get patients like from Catonsville and even like Howard County, Baltimore County. So we draw from quite a large demographic, and I love that. It's fascinating to, you know, encounter not only different people, different cultures, but different problems. You know, if I were in, you know, a different hospital, like, I don't know, somewhere else, I might not see people who come in with heroin addictions or, you know, meth dependency. So it's phenomenally interesting, and a lot of homeless people come in who I take care of. So there's that, but then there's also, you know, people from suburbia who come in. So that's where I am. I call it the Twilight Zone sometimes, because you just never know what you're going to see. And, you know, it's nighttime, so all kinds of folks come out at night. It's hilarious. But
We'll talk about that, but we'll talk about that another time.
So it can be stressful and trying, but it's also beautiful. And as far as, you know, the coronavirus, I think it's funny, when you graduate as a nurse, you give, just kind of like any graduation where you give like a decree or a proclamation that says, you know, you plan to uphold your career as a representative of your career to the best of your ability. There's kind of a nurse's creed that we all recite in unison. And I don't think any of us knew how real that would be when we graduated, you know. God only knows. I had no clue that I was about to be thrown into, you know, a pandemic. However, when you decide to become a nurse, or when you're called to be a nurse, just like if you're called to be an artist, you accept the things that come your way. You know, there's not been a day that I've been like, oh man, I wish I didn't become a nurse now. You know, I think that I love what I do. I love people. So while it's frightening and there's a lot of questions that I can't answer, I've learned, and I think part of this is just kind of, even being an artist, it kind of gives me this assurance that there are going to be ebbs and flows in your career path, just like in life. And I have to trust that, you know, the work that I've put in, the work that God started in me, as it were, will be completed, and that I will learn what I need to learn. What I don't know, I will learn. My heart is in the right place because I know I love people, I care about people, and I'm going to try to do the best I can to protect myself and to protect my patients, to protect my family. And I've always felt like that, not just as a nurse, but even as a musician. I really feel like being as a musician, I've always believed that my purpose is in connecting people and showing people that we're not just shells. We are souls, and we're all connected, and we're here to love each other, no matter what your background or your creed is, what your belief system is, you know, sexual orientation, preferences. It doesn't matter. We all have red blood, and we've all gone through pain, and that's what connects all of us. So that's what connects me to my patients at the bedside. That's what connects me when I'm standing in front of an audience, talking or playing. So I hope that wasn't too long, but I hope that I answered your question.
Yeah, you did.
This is a great opportunity, you guys. So I know it's by unconventional methods, but you're talking to Robin's being very humble. Robin is an accomplished musician. Oh, that's something. Robin, talk to them about some of the like really popular artists and places that you played for. Like,
oh my goodness.
Like
oh my gosh. Well, yeah, you know what? It's amazing because you never know what experiences you're going to have as anything that you do in life. You know, I couldn't have looked at myself, you know, when I was an undergrad and, you know, like you have an amazing opportunity. You have an amazing professor who himself is very humble, and we could go there too. But you just, you know, he can attest to this too. You never know who is listening to you. You never know who's watching you. And it'll bring you in places that you could not have even imagined. I've performed with amazing artists, many of whom are my colleagues who are not necessarily famous, but are amazing artists, like your professor. He's an incredible artist. I will also say, like, some of the, you know, mainstream people I've played with, like Jill Scott, Eminem, Mac Miller. I had an opportunity to perform in his last video that was on NPR's Tiny Desk series, and God only, you know, blessed me with that experience. I had no idea that was going to be the last time the world would look at his face, and he was so happy. And he's my homie because we were born at the same hospital in Pittsburgh, and, you know, to be able to embrace him, I had no idea the pain he was going through. I don't think any of us fully did, but, you know, that was one moment in time that connected all of us, and I'm so grateful for that. I've been on the Colbert Show, I've been on the Fallon Show, I've been on VH1, you know, all kinds of things that you just don't. I'm like a 5-year-old every time because I'm just like, wow, like super fangirl. But it's, I think it's just because I never lose the sense of wonderment in what we have the ability to do as musicians, and, you know, to be able to meet the Roots, play with the Roots, work with the Who. I mean, these are people who I've always looked up to. Stevie Wonder, I've performed with him twice. He called me out as a soloist twice in his shows. And that was, you know, I didn't expect that, but, you know, sometimes it's also the energy that you bring, the sincerity that you bring that people see and they connect with, and you just never know. So yeah, I'd say my whole career, which is ongoing, it's ever changing and unexpected and beautiful, and I'm just very grateful. I start each day with gratitude, and I try to maintain that at all times.
You know, you just said something about energy, and I remembered this quote, and I had to write it down. But there's a quote where somebody said, "Your energy announces you before you even speak."
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Thank you, Professor.
So that really made me think about that. Does anybody else have any questions for Robin?
I have a question.
Okay, Michelle DeBro.
Hi. I actually have a question. I have a question from in the beginning when you were talking. What was the first Bach song that you said you played when you were 14?
Actually, the first song that I was exposed to was the Goldberg variations on the piano, and they're amazing if you haven't heard them. I don't know if you've heard them, but they're amazing. You should listen to them. Especially my favorite are actually the first ones that I heard, probably because it's the first I heard, but by a performer named Glenn Gould.
Oh.
And you can hear him grunting while he's playing. I mean, it's just, there's an element of, you know, it's kind of like a dirtiness to that recording that I just love. It's very, very humanistic.
That's interesting. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Ironically, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I used to put headphones around my belly and I would play her the Goldberg variation. So she would get to listen to that, because it was a time when, as I mentioned, you know, being a single mom, I was scared. You know, I felt that I had the support of my family, but I felt kind of alone during that period, and that piece brought me back to kind of the beginning of my musical love in a way. And I felt like I was able to introduce that to her as well.
Anybody else have any question? I'm going to start calling on you guys.
Yeah.
It's a rare opportunity that we're going to have to be able to dialogue with someone like this.
I have a question.
Gavin, do you want to ask Robin anything?
Am I not heard?
I don't really want to ask her anything, but I just wanted to just say that I'm so happy that we see another woman of God that always keep God first and everything.
Thank
that,
you.
know, yeah, and that your faith is strong, and no matter what you go through, and I'm so thankful that somebody is out there using their faith and not giving up in spite of this chaotic, you know, that's taking place, because at the end of the day, God reigns over everything that comes our way. So thank God for you.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank God for all of you. And I'm in tears. And if I can be frank, I was praying for all of you this morning. That means a lot. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, I honestly believe that, you know, we are all connected. We're all family. And to have this forum right now to connect us in a time when we've been asked to socially distance ourselves in the physical, that doesn't mean that spiritually or emotionally or artistically that we can't connect. And thank God for you, Patrick. Gosh, your professor is, as I mentioned, a very dear friend of mine. And I've always admired him. I watch him from afar and I cheer for him, just like I'm cheering for all of you. Because all of you really, you know, your gifts are going to make us greater as a people. And only by God's strength, you know, God's strength and mercy. And I believe that no matter what we do, if we acknowledge God's power, you know, we can do anything. So it's the courage. He's the courage that I have walking into the emergency room that says, I don't know what's happening, but I know that I'm going to be okay. I know that I'm going to be okay because he's covering me. And I pray that he's covering you. I believe that he's covering all of you. And I encourage you, no matter what comes your way, you press forward, because you never know who needs your gift. You never know who needs your testimony. All of your pain is not for nothing. It makes you a better artist. It makes you a better human. It really does. Thank you.
Alexandria, do you want to ask Robin your question?
Am I heard? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I know that you've mentioned that you started off as a pianist, you know, at an early age. So what made that transition solid for you to go from piano to a violist?
That's a great question. You know, I actually believe that as a musician, it's hard to say you're one thing or another. Your professor, for instance, plays the piano, plays the organ, and sings, and conducts. And those are just a few things. He's a writer. He's a public speaker. He's a moderator. You're never just one thing, you know. So if I use myself as an example, I started on the piano, but I still play every now and then. I think as you get older, you stop labeling yourself as things. You just do things. You know, society likes to label us as things. You know, I'm a this, I'm a that. I've just started saying I'm an artist. So I still play. I don't perform on piano that often, although I think my last piano performance was a year and a half ago. I don't tell people about it, but it's actually on YouTube, but I think it's like someone else's video, whatever. But so yeah, I still play. But I also love to write. I love to dance. I love to do yoga. I love to do all kinds of things that kind of are connected to art and, you know, the essence of who I am. So
All the way for you.
yeah, Alexandra, you can say that I still play. I just don't perform as often on piano, but I mostly actively perform on viola and violin. I started on violin when I was 8. And so I never really gave it up. Although when I first started like violin after piano, I felt like I was cheating on the piano. Then I started the viola, I felt like I was cheating on the violin. And then I realized, wait, I can still play all 3. So I'm still doing all 3 at my leisure. So
That's really cool.
that's a good question.
Hey, Robin, before I get another question from one of the students, could you maybe give them the distinction between the viola versus the violin?
Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, let me take out my violin. So my viola, I have a name for my viola. My viola's name is Babalu.
I'm sorry, Robin. I think you may be frozen up. Can you all see her video okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. It might be just me. I'm sorry, Robin. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'm
What's
going
the
to
name of
take
your
out
viola?
my viola's name is Babalu. And Babalu is actually, for me, it was a reference to I Love Lucy. Ricky Ricardo, his signature song was Babalu. But, you know, the more, you know, African reference being, you know, Babalu, you know, being a calling out to God, that kind of thing, which I won't go into that. But so this is Babalu, my viola. Yay. Now my violin, her name is Honey. Yay. So I'm going to turn my camera. I'm going to put them down flat so you can see them. And then I'll let you guys tell me what you think the differences are.
The violin's much smaller.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Much smaller than that.
Yeah, it's definitely smaller.
Definitely. Yeah, so this is Honey, my violin, and I'm going to pluck the strings. This is E, A, D, G. This is my viola, Babalu, A, D, G, C. So they share these 3 strings, A, D, G, A, D, G. However, the viola has the powerful C string, and the violin has the sweet E string. So it kind of gives a very different quality to the viola. The viola is very mellow. It has kind of a melancholy or more of a sonorous, richer tonality to it, timbre. Whereas the violin is a lot sweeter in a way. It's not that it's sweeter, but it's a higher pitch. So it covers kind of a higher, kind of more in the stratosphere. You'll hear the violin often, whereas the viola is more the range of the human voice, the typical human voice, so more of an alto type quality. I like to say the viola sounds like chocolate taste. So it's very rich and dark and, you know, milky and that kind of sound, where I call my violin honey because it's sweet, but it doesn't have, to me, it doesn't have the depth that the viola has. So when I was younger learning the violin, I think I was trying to produce a depth and a viola chocolatey sound on an instrument that didn't quite give me that, but I think I was still able to achieve some of that on the violin, despite the characteristic sound of the violin. So yeah, they're both very interesting. So I get pleasure playing both of them because they kind of have different soundscapes to them.
All right, you all, we're about to wrap up with Robin. So do you all have any questions that you all might want to propose to her before we wrap up our session together?
I think we asked all the questions.
I just want to reiterate, I think it's Robin positioned a very valid point that, you know, society tends to label you, like you say, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm an engineer, this. But as she pointed out, you can be a person who has a lot of different gifts, a myriad of gifts and talents that are residing in you. And even with this dilemma that we're in right now, all of us have had to use other talents that we didn't even know we had to get through this whole, you know, coronavirus pandemic. So Robin, thank you for just reiterating and just pushing the whole idea of being versatile to a home. No matter what it is, you're going to have to explore a lot of different things. And really this coronavirus, even though it's something negative, it has truly made all of us bow down to technology.
Yes.
All right.
That is so true.
So Robin, did you want to give a final greeting to my students before I end all of our time together?
Oh, absolutely. Once again, I want to thank all of you for sharing with me, actually, sharing your time, sharing your space, your energy, inviting me into your virtual classroom. This is the first time I've done anything like this. So Professor Patrick McCoy, I want to thank you for inviting me here. I was so excited, and I am excited to know that my future, my daughter's future is in your hands. All of you, your gifts are essential. There's not one gift that you have that is non-essential. So we're all essential personnel. There's a notion that, you know, only essential personnel are allowed on the streets right now. You know, we're talking about social distancing. I want to present the idea that, as frustrating as it is, social distancing is a time where I challenge all of you to really meditate on what your gifts are and how you might use your gifts to change our world. And it doesn't have to be in large ways. It doesn't have to cost anything. It can be something as simple as, when I walk out of the house, I'm going to greet the next person in love, because that's going to create a ripple effect that's going to change their life. That's something so simple that doesn't cost anything but makes a big difference. So yeah, this is a time of kind of self-love, but in practicing that self-love, you're actually loving other people around you, because you're improving your own self. You're vibrating on a higher level so that what you put out is going to change the energy around you. So use this time wisely. We can all get discouraged, but we can all be encouraged. And come out of our shells as better people and more loving people, creates a better society.
Well, Robin, thank you so much, class. Give her a round of applause.
Aww, thank you.
All right, Robin, thank you so much for joining us again. This is Music Appreciation. This is the 9:30 Music Appreciation class. We meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays, usually on the campus of Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia. And of course, as you know, because of the pandemic, we are all to remote teaching. And I must give my students a round of applause because they are they have been so amenable during this time. I know it's a transition for them as well. So again, to my students, thank you all for being open. And again, Robin, thank you so much for being with us. And I hope that you all would tell everybody about your experience, that you met a phenomenal African-American classical violist. And as Robin mentioned, we've been friends for a long time now. And, you know, we've seen each other on a different journey. She's seen me as a conductor. Robin's actually played in my orchestra at my former church where I was the music director. She's played on many occasions for me in the orchestra, making sure that I have everything I need with the instrumentalists and so forth. So, Robin, you are amazing, and I'm glad that my students got this opportunity to meet you virtually.
Oh, thank you so much. Can I take a picture?
Yeah, all right, so everybody, Robin wants to take a picture of her screen. So if you can and if you're willing, please put your camera on. I know it's a stretch, but she wants to take a class picture with us.
I don't know how I can get every single person on at the same time because I'm on the phone.
So
Just scroll.
View?
Just scroll.
And you can scroll.
Scroll and
I can scroll all the way.
like scroll
Let's
like
see.
and screenshot everybody.
Okay, can I do that? Do you guys mind?
Yeah.
Okay, so does
Okay, let's see. I have.
So do you see everybody on the screen, Robin? That they have the camera?
I don't see everyone at the same time. But I see all these beautiful faces.
Do you see where it says gallery view? There should be something that says gallery view, and if you click that, it'll put all of the people on the screen.
That's the thing.
Oh, okay, hold on. Gallery view. I see. It's kind of weird. Maybe it's because I'm on the phone, but I only see like four people at a time.
Maybe I'll unspotlight you and see what happens. Cancel. All right.
Okay, I can see. Oh man, I don't see the gallery view. I only see like four people at a time.
Oh well, it's only I think it's 1, 2, 3. It's only 4 of us that I think have our camera. Wait a minute, no, it says it should be 9 of us on here.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna work because she's on the phone. It's gonna be 4,
probably
4 screens.
That's why she has to scroll.
She has to scroll.
Can someone from the class take a picture of the screen and email it to me?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Because I think I'll do it too. I think if I take a picture, it's gonna. Of course, you're gonna see me in the picture taking the picture. People understand. Let's see.
That's amazing, though. Oh.
I could do it that. Wait a minute, that's an idea. All right, so we'll do this, and I'll look into my camera. All right. So let me see. I think we'll do this. All right. All right, you ready? I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, cheese. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Let me see if it come out. Yeah, almost. Let's see. Let's do it one more time. And those of you all who are on the camera, if you're willing, if you would try to look right in your camera so we can have everybody in the picture. All right. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Oh, we got it.
VSU, VSU.
Oh, Michelle, I see you. All right, again, Robin, thank you so much for joining us.